Hi and welcome to Conversion Conversations. This is Cameron and today I've got a special review. I have in front of me the Transformers deck building game. I was sent a review copy, I guess like hashtag free review copy or whatever. I gotta disclose. I was sent a free review copy by Renegade Games a long time ago. I've been busy with the Transformers TCG and other stuff. I haven't had a chance to review it. Over the break and the holiday, I got a chance to play a bunch of games, so now I have some thoughts to share. First things first, we are going to open this box up. I do like the box. The art's nice. I like the evergreen art. It's grown on me. I guess the first thing you see is the rulebook, and I will say the rulebook for me was missing a very important section. They have the special card clarification section. I really wanted one more page that just had every keyword in the game and the exact definition. You can hunt down and find certain things in certain sections. So for example here, it says, if you go under cooperative and solo rules, it says, okay, here's how to deal with cooperative schemes, and here's how to deal with contributed cards. But what I, like, instead of finding this section, I would have liked to just been able to find very conveniently what contributed means, that sort of thing. Other than that, I think the rules were relatively straightforward. We definitely had to reference them a couple times to get around some edge cases. But yeah, overall, the rulebook was pretty nice. For the game itself, we've got different components. The base box, and I don't have any promo packs or anything. The base box comes with 6 Transformers characters. Each of them, Autobots, I should say, has an alt mode and a bot mode. And the cards work pretty straightforward. You start out in the game, you start out in your alt mode. In your vehicle mode, you have a certain amount of movement base that your vehicle can move. Everyone, I think, can move 2 except for RC. RC is special. She's extra speedy. She can move 3. Yeah, everyone else can move 2. And vehicle modes obviously they don't tend to be great for combat, especially for Autobots. So when it comes to when you're battling adversaries, you're 1 less power, and I'll explain how that works. You can transform. There's cards that let you transform, and then you can spend an Energon cube, which there's different ways to get these little cubes to transform. Flip over to your bot mode side. If you notice here, you don't have any movement on this side, so you need to get movement from cards to be able to move around the board still. And then each character has special rules, and they do feel pretty unique. I do like that. Ironhide gets benefits for when you block an attack. I really enjoyed this because it's one of the few ways you can draw a card, extra cards in the game. RC lets you draw a card when you play maneuvers. I really enjoyed her ability. Wheeljack, very on brand. He gets extra power, that sort of thing. Everyone's got different powers. The other thing they have is they have Energon abilities. Everyone's got 2 Energon abilities, one that costs 1 Energon, one that costs 2. And these abilities you can use once per turn on your turn to either draw cards, increase in power, heal your buddies, that sort of thing. And I guess I'll talk about the game modes in a second after going through the base structure. So you start out the game, you pick your Autobot, and you get a little standee. And then it's a deck building game, so you're building a deck. You start out your deck with basic cards, and the structure of a card has a cost, and again, the basic cards don't have any cost. They can give you power, that's what the battery symbol says. They can give you movement. Actually, let me show off. Yeah, they give you power. They might have a range to which that power applies. Power is how you buy things. They might also give you movement. That's the same symbol as your character card. And then a card can say something, and when you play the card, you do that thing right then. Or it might have an Energon ability. This one's tied to the keyword confront, but when the time comes, you can pay an Energon to get that ability as well. And there's different basic cards. Courage is like your basic dollar. You end up trying to filter these out of your deck pretty quickly. The firepower is better. It gives you 2 power, and it has range. Patrol is super important. I never found myself wanting to get rid of this card. You'll see on the board you get to flip adjacent cards face up to buy them. Patrol lets you do that for free without having to worry about having ranged movement. Reserves gets you Energon when you're low on Energon, and then Fix lets you repair damage. Its Energon ability is also super important. I found I was using this a lot. It lets you pay an Energon to destroy a starter card. So I'd be destroying Courage when I could to filter it out of my deck once I got better cards. Then we have our basic cards. So those were our starter cards. These are our basic cards. There's two types. One is damage. You only get damage if a card tells you you get damage. And basically what it does is it really only matters in the competitive or cooperative modes of the game. But in competitive mode, when you have damage, you have to resolve assists. People have to help you, and that gives them a chance to win points. So you don't want damage, so you don't have to give your opponents points. In cooperative, you have to do the same thing. You don't care about victory points, but instead you care about, you have to overcome all the damage you have to be able to fight an adversary. And if you can't, then you basically don't get to fight. Transform and Rollout is basically the next step up from Courage. It gives you a power, it gives you a movement, it has a range of 1, and it's a free transform. You don't have to use an Energon. And it has an assist, which is, again, goes back to damage, lets you help other people out, give them a power. So that is the basic cards. And then the last bit, not last bit, there's a couple other things. We have a bunch of card types here. Relics, we're not going to talk about those yet. We've got the actual cards that make up the grid, and we'll talk about the matrix and the grid in a second. But you have technology cards, you have maneuver cards, ally cards, you have maneuver cards, you have Autobots that you can buy and that you gain allies with them. You have Decepticons, which look almost the exact same as the Autobots, but when you beat these guys, instead of going in your deck, you just get them for victory points. And then you have sites, which you don't buy, they stay on the field, and they change the game in certain ways. These are the cards that will make up your deck as you're building and growing it. The very, very last section of cards, which the box does let you put everything nicely away, which I appreciate. If you're playing a competitive game, you get relics, which you notice are much more expensive than regular cards, and they generally have much better abilities. At the end, before the end of the game, you can cash them, basically getting them out of your deck, but gaining victory points from them. If you're playing cooperative, you can have, instead of relics, you have cooperative schemes, which are additional challenges to overcome. And then, no matter what version of the game you're playing, you can also have Decepticon schemes, which are, again, additional challenges to overcome. They basically lock cards down and do different things to make it harder to beat enemies while they're still up. Then the I keep going, very last thing. Here are reference cards. Where are the bosses? Oh, here they are. We have 6 Decepticon bosses that we need to beat. Any game has 3 of them. There's 2 at each stage. Soundwave and Astro Train are stage 1. Blitzwing and Starscream are stage 2. Megatron and Devastator are stage 3. Every time you flip up any Decepticon, if there's anyone on the space, they get ambushed. In addition to that, bosses ambush everyone, and they get a boss reveal, extra effect. Every time you want to fight a boss, you get a confrontation, and you reveal this bottom part of the card, and that's usually something bad. There's a lot of tough ones out here, and we'll talk about that in a second. But those are basically all the cards in the game. It also comes with tokens. There are tokens to track movement and power. There are tokens to track start of turn effects and ongoing effects, and then there's your victory point tokens. Like I said, the game generally works the same way no matter how you're playing it. There's competitive, there's cooperative, and there's solo. Your goal in each of those is to build an efficient deck so that you can take down bad guys and gain points. In competitive, you care about the victory points more than you care about beating the bad guys. In cooperative and solo, you care about building the bad guys. So, with that said, I'm going to swap things over to a quick look at an actual solo layout of the game. and we'll come back and I'll talk about my thoughts and kind of show some example stuff. All right, so here is our starting point where we start building out our matrix and everything. I've got my character Wheeljack in alt mode. I got a little standee on him. I give him, every character gets movement tokens for their base movement. Basically, when you move, you put a token on top to show that you've used it. You also start the game off with 2 Energon cubes. And then in terms of your starting deck, before you make any adjustments or buy anything, you have 6 Courages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we've got 1 Firepower, 1 Patrol, 1 Reserves, and 1 Fix. So essentially, if you shuffle randomly, you should get average about 3 power and an extra movement each turn along with some abilities. That's kind of what the average hand is for your starting deck. Not super strong, especially when we talk about the cards you can buy. But on an average turn, at minimum, you should be able to buy a Transform and Rollout. That doesn't care where your character is, you can buy that. You have your encounter deck over here, you have your damage deck over here, and now we can build the matrix. So we have our deck of cards here. And again, this isn't shuffled because I was organizing it for this review. But let's pretend, you know what, we'll do a quick shuffle. If this is a solo game or competitive game, you don't care about the relics. Those can be set aside. Those just get added for competitive games, not for solo or co-op. If it's not a cooperative game, then you don't care about the cooperative schemes either. You can add the Decepticon schemes. I'd say for your first game ever, just like the rulebook says, don't add these, but then later on, feel free to add them. Just make sure you give things a good shuffle. I will say, I guess my first complaint starting out, I feel like, especially if I'm playing this, and I did play this 4 players, it's 1 to 4 players. For 4 players, you see a lot of the deck very, very fast. So the games don't feel super random. That's kind of my first nitpick, is that I see most of the cards due to the way you build the deck and build your matrix. And I'll show that off in a second. You essentially, starting out, we are going to take whatever cards are on top and we're going to build a matrix. For 1 player, 1 to 2 players, we go 4 wide and 3 tall. Those are the bosses. We'll seed those in a second. If you're playing 3 players, you go 4 by 4, and then if you're playing 4 players, you go 5 by 4. So the game does scale for the number of players pretty well. You basically have more spots to check out, more spots to find things like that. Then, to build our actual deck that is going to determine the game, you win the game by either beating all 3 bosses or getting the most victory points, depending on the mode. You lose the game when you run out of cards here, and you need to put one on and you don't have a card to draw from. You lose the game, or if you take 5 damage, you're out that way also. So, to start out, we're going to build 3 piles. This is a solo game, so we're going to build them 7 high. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The rest of these cards, we're going to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, set them aside. The rest of these cards we're not using. So if you're playing solo, like you've got a fat stack of cards that you're not going to see this game. And that helps keep things a little more random. If you're playing 4 players, again, you've got a bigger matrix, and your piles, instead of being 7, I believe they're like 15. 4 players, it's 13 cards each. 5 players is 15 cards each. And then like there's really, you're going to see all the cards. The difference just matters in the order that you see them, which to me made games feel a little samey. We've got our different guys. So first we'll shuffle up. You pick 1 boss randomly for each one. Here we'll shuffle him in the first pile. Set that aside. Second set, this is our level 2 bosses. Set one aside. Shuffle him in the second pile. Set the first one on top. Last one goes in the third pile. And essentially what this is saying is every turn you're going to destroy one of these cards or put it on the matrix. Ideally, you put it on the matrix because you bought something. And then you're finding the 3 bosses as they get revealed on the matrix somewhere, trying to beat them. And then you'll have, after the last boss reveal, even if it's at the very last place it can be in the deck, you still have 5 more turns to try and beat that boss. So this is the layout of a solo game. If you have other players, then you're essentially just, the matrix will be bigger, this deck will be larger, and you'll have your other positions. To start out with, you take your mini when it's your turn, and you can put them anywhere on the board. Once the standee is on the board, you use movement to move. You cannot move diagonally, you have to move orthogonally, so that's 1 movement, and that's 2 movement. That would not be possible, unless you have the keyword flight. But essentially what you're trying to do throughout the game is you're moving, so let's say that's 1 movement, and then I'm going to spend a movement to flip a card face up. That's a technology, that's a Force Dome. If it costs 5, ideally I can buy it with my hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We flip my hand face up, and I have, we can count it, 1, 2, 3, 4 power. I can't buy that card. I can use the other effects to destroy a starter I control, gain an energon, that sort of stuff. Unfortunately, I can't buy that card. What I can do is buy 2 transform and rollouts for my turn, spending that power, and then discarding all those cards, and I get a new hand for my next turn, where I have, again, 4 power. But what the goal is you're moving around and you're revealing spaces to try and find stuff. Cliff Jumper is something I could buy, to try and find things you can buy to make your deck stronger, so that, let's say we bought Cliff Jumper, we flip the next card, well, we don't flip it, we put it down, we move around, we buy something, we flip something else, can't buy it, we move somewhere else. Like, this is several turns. Let's say we can't buy anything. If you ever can't buy anything, then you flip the card face up. If it's not a boss, you just destroy it. Eventually, we move back, we flip it, and we're hoping that we reveal at some point, we'll find, there it is. One of these is a boss that we go to, and instead of buying Decepticons, you battle them, but it functions the same way. You're generating power with your hand. So let's say, like, this was our hand. There's 5 cards. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 power. We could beat that guy. That's the general gist of the game. There are wrinkles to that. For example, I guess I need to find a Decepticon here. We'll flip all these cards face up and talk about stuff. That's a lot of Autobots. Again, I guess that's because here we go. Let's say I revealed Scavenger. If I'm on him, I get ambushed. So I flip up an encounter card, and it says I gain a damage. Okay, gain a damage. That makes it harder for me to beat people, because now I have to overcome the damage, especially in cooperative mode, where you need an assist. In solo mode, it's impossible to get assisted. So the only thing that damage does, in my mind, is if you get 5, you lose the game, essentially. That's how I've been playing it. The rules, I feel like, aren't, again, super clear on that. Maybe there's an answer in there, but it would be lovely if there was a keyword that said damage, and it just said, okay, here's what damage does in solo mode, here's what it does in cooperative mode, here's what it does in competitive mode. The other thing I don't like is the game actively tells you to put your standee on the cards, but you're like revealing stuff and moving stuff and flipping stuff all the time. I would have preferred if you had like a mat that this went with, and you had a designated spot beneath the cards, or maybe in between the cards, and any card you were around you could choose from, that sort of thing. That might have made it interesting. So it's a 3x4 matrix, but in terms of spots, it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, that sort of thing. Maybe that's not enough spots. But something to designate that your standee should just go below the card instead of above it or on top of it would have been nice. There's, in the games I've played, in solo mode, it feels like it's pretty swingy. You can build up a good amount of power, but if you have the wrong boss, like Devastator, if I have Constructicons that I've destroyed or that are in the Matrix, like Scavenger here, and I reveal Devastator, he gets the added +1 for each Constructicon that gets moved under him, and then he becomes like 14 or 15, and without any assists from other players, I mean, that's a very, very difficult boss to beat. So that's like some of these bosses, like you can just get unlucky and you find yourself in an unwinnable situation, even if you haven't necessarily misplayed on your end. A game that's supposed to be like about robots battling robots, I wish maybe they were seated better. There was a larger card pool so that the games were more randomized between them instead of just being randomized inside the game in terms of when you find something. The Matrix is a cool idea to move around on and stuff. It's something unique, but when I compare this to a deck building game like Dominion or something, what I found is I want to combo a lot more. And there's not a lot of cards to do that. My hand tends to be 5 cards, and there's not a lot of ways to get around that without an Autobot with a certain ability. So like Jazz here, I love that he gets to draw a card and gain an Energon. The problem is I have to block something to do that. So I need an attack. Like Starscream here has an attack. That is something that the keyword block can engage with. But if I flip Devastator over, he doesn't even really get an attack. So there might not be the opportunity to spend this to get the card draw, which is frustrating. And then I am spending this, but I don't get this power or this movement because I'm blocking not on my turn. So the ability to get big combos to fight this big stuff or buy big items is a little frustrating. It's almost non-existent. There's stuff like, and if you notice, everything here costs like 4 or 5, between 2 to 5. I wish there was a much larger deck that went all the way to 10, and I really had more time to build up my own personal deck to get really good power numbers and be able to combo off and get 10 power on a regular basis. Make the bosses even harder, sure, but then let me buy some really cool cards. The relics that are in here, they are more expensive, but even they don't do like crazy stuff. Like this one, Jetfire, he costs 8. Yeah, he gives you a bunch of power and some movement and has range. All he does is give you flight, which lets you move diagonally. Like that's not, amazing. Here, this one's fun. Resonance Blaster, playing with this one has been fun. I mean, it gets you 3 VP if you vault it, but you also get to defeat all adjacent adversaries with 5 cost or less. That's a fun one. Toxin is like a negative relic, whatever. Here, Phase Shifter. You avoid all ambushes, you draw 2 cards, but again, it's tied to the block, so it's not really something that you can combo off of, which is what I think I look for in a deck builder. I'm looking to build an engine that lets me play a bunch of cards in a turn and get a lot of value out of them. That's what I want in a deck builder, and Transformers, the deck builder, doesn't really let me do that, which is really frustrating. The other thing I want to say is, like these cards that we're buying, like to me, they don't feel all that great. I'm spending 5 on Dropship, I get 3 power from it, and I can move a target character up to 2 spaces. That's like kind of neat, but it doesn't feel good compared to, okay, Transform Rollout gets me 1 power. It only costs 2 though, so I can buy more of them and I can transform. It feels like everything has been very homogenized to make sure that there's no real big peaks or troughs in your gameplay, which makes things very smooth, but also just makes things less interesting for me, unfortunately. I did have a lot of fun. I will say, out of the 3 modes, solo mode, I played a handful of times, and I don't think I'm going to play solo anymore. It's fine, but it's not like the most interesting thing in the world to me. I'd rather do other things with my time. I feel like there's better other solo games out there. Cooperative mode is where the game shines. Competitive mode, I didn't enjoy competitive mode. You're working for victory points, which means you're much less focused on beating the bad guys, and in fact, you just care about victory points at the end of the game. So people were really not working together to beat stuff, and it felt like the board would get to this state where there'd be Decepticons on the field, and people are focused on trying to get victory points, and you gain victory points if you beat a boss, but you're working against each other to try and avoid assisting each other. It just ended up not feeling as fun. Cooperative mode, I think, is where the game shines best, where you can assist each other without worrying about, oh, am I giving him too many victory points by letting him assist me? You get to explore larger matrices, which the bigger matrix definitely helps a little bit. But there are still games where, like, on the 24x5 matrix, where like we were at the end of the game and we just couldn't find Devastator. We were moving around everywhere, we were revealing stuff. We just didn't find Devastator until we ran out of cards, which was really frustrating. That sort of thing doesn't feel great either. It feels like everything that we're doing in the game, we are incrementally increasing our deck, just our power and our ability. We're increasing it all a little too slow to be fun. Whereas a game like Dominion, I felt like every turn I was like making things drastically better for myself, and everyone's making things drastically better for themselves, and it's a real race to see how good of an engine you can build. Whereas here, I didn't feel that way. The last thing I will say is, I hope I'm not like talking too negatively about the game. It was still fun. It was pretty fun in cooperative mode, and I am excited for future expansions. And to that end, I want to talk about Decepticons. If you notice, there is functionally no difference between a Decepticon card and an Autobot card. They do all the same stuff, and if you notice, Autobots, they say, gain 2 victory points, but these go in your deck, whereas Decepticon cards don't. Currently, they go in the vault. But it seems like the game's set up very easily for them to come out with a Decepticon expansion where you are playing Decepticon characters, and you are battling the Autobots, where you got to beat them for 4, and they will go into your vault, and you gain Decepticons as allies or as robot buddies instead. And I will say the Decepticon cards seem more fun to play. Like Brawl, if you're on a site, draw 2 cards, that's great. That's something you can combo off. Wheeljack here, each +1 power for each technology you play or have play this turn is fine. But Autobots seem focused on like block abilities, blocking attacks, whereas Decepticons seem much more focused on actually fighting. Here, draw a card, then you may destroy a card in your hand. Pay an Energon to draw another card, and then you may destroy another card in your hand. That's a great combo card. So I think I'm more excited for the Decepticon expansion to this game. When that comes out, I'll definitely be playing this again with my friends. I did play this with several groups of people, and overall, I think the general consensus was pretty similar, which is that we wish there were more ways to draw cards in your deck to increase your hand size so that you could get better combos off, things like that. We felt we had to go to the rule book. Oh, if you're checking out the game, the rules are free, and there's a PDF of them online. Use that version because you can just Control F and search the keyword you want. It's super helpful. But yeah, it's a fun game. It's definitely not something that is going to replace the Transformers TCG for me. I think in terms of a recommendation, I'd say you're spending $50. I think there's better ways you can spend $50 on a board game. So unless you're like a really big Transformers fan as well as a board game fan, I don't think I'd give this a big recommendation. I would instead give this, a nod. Like, yeah, it's fun. If a friend has it and they say, hey, do you want to play this? Say, yeah, sure. Would I buy this? I don't think so. And for that reason, like I said earlier, I was doing a giveaway. Okay, it's time to announce our winner for the Transformers Deck Building Game by Renegade giveaway. Here are the comments on the video announcing the giveaway again. The question was just, what did you have, or what was your favorite thing you got for the holidays? We had 8 entries, a smaller one, which I kind of expected. Deck building games aren't necessarily for everyone. But let's see who our winner is. Ran between 1 and 8. Number 6. Oh, 6 is blue versus orange TCG. That's Christian. Congratulations, Christian. Whenever you reach out to me, I'll get your box bundled up for you and sent your way. Congratulations. Hope everyone found the review helpful. This copy of the game, this sealed version of the game, is going to a lucky winner. So congratulations. That's it for this review. I don't know that I'm going to bother showing any like gameplay footage. I thought about that. It's fine. I think there's better deck builders out there. Honestly, if you want a deck builder and you're not married to the idea of a Transformers deck builder, check out Dominion. I still think Dominion's like one of the best ones out there. This game does unique things. The Matrix is a cool idea, but there's just other fiddly bits. And fiddly is a good term for it. Something I didn't mention, or no, I did mention the card thing. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm rambling at this point. this video feels like it's already very long. Thanks everyone for hanging out. Congratulations to the winner, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye!